In your opinion, who was the biggest babe in a movie ever?
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to a very special edition of the Pat Mayo Experience. This being the 50th edition of Cust Corner.
Cust Corner, it's Cust Corner. Cust Corner, it's Cust Corner. He's got the hottest takes with the highest stakes. He should be president of the United States, but it's Cust Corner, it's Cust Corner. Cust Corner,
How do you
Not
feel
what
about
people call it.
People are calling it that. They've called it 49 times.
I know.
This will be the 50th time they will be calling it. We are now into year 8 of Cust Corner. When we did this the very first time, did you think it would be here?
No, I didn't at all. I didn't think it would take the life that it has taken. I mean, yeah, it's the 50th episode, but again, as I've told you before, like I think at some point the counting has gone sideways because like we do a mini one every week for 21 weeks, and then they get all compiled into one, and then sometimes they're all just called like part 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the same one. So, I mean, there's probably more hours of corner from like the minis than there are from the regular shows. But no, did I think 8 years later we would still be doing this? I didn't think I'd be doing much of anything. Like my life would be 8 years ago. My life is different than what I've expected it to be. That's true for most people. The world is different, and the show has really grown. And I've noticed that having watched some of the first episodes, how the show has grown over the last 50 years.
Well,
Not 50 years.
Past 50. If we're doing this 50 years from now, we made it, buddy. Don't worry about that.
I think I'll just be upset. At that point, I don't know what I'll have left to talk about. I'll be frustrated that they changed the font in the dictionary or something. That would be like what I have left to complain about.
Oh, there will be no words in 50 years, Tim. It'll just be emojis or sounds like something like that.
Yeah.
That will mean hello, good day. And maybe it'll mean goodbye. It'll be like aloha. You can mean
Like
both
aloha.
things.
I was going to say like aloha.
Well, we wanted to make sure that this was a very special episode. We wanted to make sure that you could catch up on all the Cust Corners if you wanted to. They're all up on Mayo Media Network's YouTube right now under the Cust Corner playlist. There's also a separate podcast feed, which you can find in the description of this right now. And we will be doing a live show June 7th, 2025 in Toronto, a Cust Corner Live with all the gang will be there. But for Cust Corner 50 in particular, we had to reassemble the gang from Cust Corner 1. On the line with us, it's Garion Thorne. Garion, did you think this is where you would be 8 years later?
No. I mean, physically, I'm in a place I did not know I would be. I did not own this residence 8 years ago. I didn't have a job that would have allowed me to own a residence, so that's fun. That's a change. I was actually just talking with my fiance before this started, saying that I think I had only maybe known her for 6 or 7 months when we recorded that first episode of Cust Corner. So yeah, the passage of time is crazy. And I
do the
do
Dolphins
think
would have had a playoff winner too.
Yeah, you would hope. I didn't know who Tua was. What a simpler, beautiful time. Although he's probably the quarterback at Alabama at that point, maybe.
Hurts was, I think.
They were in the battle, I guess, at the very least. But I would refute Tim, though, you saying you won't have things to complain about. I feel like you've had the ramblings and complaints of a 80-year-old man this entire time. So when you actually become 80, this stuff will all seem justified. You'll be right in the pocket at that point.
Yeah, it'll funny. Like in 50 years' time, this will just go from us not agreeing with you on crazy takes to we're all going to be old and we'll just agree with you on all these takes.
Well, like to take people behind the curtain for like the week by week during the football season show, like I would say half the time I like wake up on Monday and think, I don't know what I'm going to talk about on the show for a corner. I have no idea what it is that's been bothering. Like when things do bother me for the week, I make a note of it, like so that I can talk about it. But like, and it's unbelievable to me how often the weeks where I don't think I have anything are the weeks where things just go out of control on the podcast, and like they have a life of their own that I would like. My idea of the dream house was like an offhanded thought that I had. And that mushroomed into like a 4-part miniseries that I had no expectations for. So like we don't go into this pre-planned. I don't even go into this pre-planned most of the time. Sometimes there are things that I know I'm going to talk about because they've been bothering me, but often it's like something just catches my mind. I was like, that's actually been grinding my gears. That they're telling me that I have to have that this whole lasagna I just cooked should be feeding a family of 4 when it's going to barely feed a family of 1.
Is that a problem for
back.
you? Yeah, we're back, and let's dig into this. You can vote in the Custy Awards, which will be coming up this summer as well. The ballot is open right now, depending on when you're watching this. It's down in the description. Go vote. You can only vote once, so make your vote count for the Custies to see if Cust can reel off a historic 8th consecutive most insane person of the year. Who knows if that's going to be the case in 2025. I want to start with a fresh topic first. So, Tim, you can hit up on the one you were telling us about earlier.
It seems like starting, well, I say tomorrow, I don't know when this is coming out. Starting February 4th, McDonald's Canada has got a brand new contest that's starting. It's called like Peel and Win or something, or like, do you want a prize with that? I think of what it's called. I don't quite know the ins and outs of what this game is, but I really, really want to play. And as somebody who this year refused to play Monopoly, I feel like I'm being rewarded in some way cosmically for my discipline. Because like I don't have to wait an entire year before I get to have fun with a contest. It seems like starting tomorrow, there's a brand new contest where I can win big by going to McDonald's. And that combines my 2 favorite things, winning and McDonald's. So I'm very excited.
Pat, do you think someone at McDonald's Canada headquarters, they like came running into someone important's office at the end of McDonald's Monopoly, and they had like a big sign that had an arrow, a big red arrow going down, and they were like, "Sir, something happened this year with McDonald's Monopoly. The numbers are so off." And then they pinpointed that Tim didn't play, and they found one of these episodes online, and they realized what was happening, and they got their brain trust together to figure out a way to get Tim back on board with going to McDonald's 3 times a day.
I do like the idea that this entire national game is set up exclusively to ensnare me. And,
that means you can't win because they know the whole trick is that you can't win. So you'll keep playing.
That's true. I'm like, it's like the reverse of that guy who kept following Homer around to sell him hot dogs to put his kid through college. Like I was not buying.
All you know about this game is something that you saw a screenshot of that has like a question mark, like on a Mario jump box. And that's it. That's the entire game.
Yeah, that's more or less it. I think the exact name of it is called Want Prize with That. This starts tomorrow.
Squid Game started?
I don't know. All I know is that tomorrow it's starting, and you better believe I'll be there first thing tomorrow morning to get a prize.
What do you think?
I also need to get the game board, whatever, because I need to learn the rules.
What are your expectations of what the prizes are going to be for this?
I assume it'll be like roll up the rim style, where it's just food prizes. Like, that's what I'm guessing. But maybe it's like there's collectibles. You get so many tokens, and you can cash them in for a big prize, and there are rare ones and common ones. I really don't know. Like, I'm very intrigued. I'm usually very on top of these things. And it's sort of like caught me off guard last week that this was coming up, and now I'm very excited.
This seems to be the most excited I've heard you about anything in a while.
It's been as I think I said on the football show, it's been a very long, toxic football season for me, and so I very much need to
put some toxicity from McDonald's into your body. You need more toxicity.
100% beef, 100% potatoes.
Hey, well, we talked about this. So Garion, he was going on about the 100% beef, and Jeff pointed out that's just the name of the company, so you can call everything 100% beef. And then I was at the grocery store the other day with this chicken. It's like Free From was the name of the it was Free From with the like copyright logo on it, so they can call this chicken is free from whatever. But that's actually just it's just the name of the company, so they can say it's free from anything and not be held legally responsible.
I mean, I hate it, but I respect it. So that's tough. It's a fine line to walk. I'm really trying to figure out what the mechanics of this would be. I mean, I guess we're sort of left with something so open-ended, it could be anything. But I mean, even the name, I guess that's derived from like, do you want fries?
Fries,
with that?
yeah,
and
yeah.
then it's prize. But
like,
who would say no?
I don't know.
Who would go? So someone's like, do you want this free thing? They're like, nah, I'm good.
I don't know. I don't know the mechanics of it. I feel like completely ill prepared. But what I do know is that I'm going to play, and I'm looking forward to playing.
I'm watching the commercial for it right now. It looks like it's like a game show, but it doesn't tell you anything. Just peel.
No, that's the thing.
Just peel, scan, and play in the app with participating products. Any questions? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of questions.
It's like David S. Pumpkins.
I got nothing but questions. What items? Are they the same items as the Monopoly items? Because I got those memorized. Or are they new items? And if there are new items, which new items? And like, what do I scan? Do I have to scan my app? I'm not doing that. But if I have to scan the app, can I give them the number instead? And like, what do I do with the things on the like, are the peelers on the boxes like they are during Monopoly? Like, I've got a lot of questions. Where do I keep them? Do I have a game board that I can stick them on?
It sounds like you just
But
put them
that's
in the app.
thing. It's like, isn't the peel process on the app already just half of the McDonald's game anyway? So isn't this sort of just like half-assed McDonald's without a board?
I don't know. I don't know what this is. I'm genuinely confused, but also tremendously excited.
What do you think?
On this note, I saw that they're bringing the actual peel cups at Tim Hortons back.
I saw that too. Also very excited for that.
You love just having to finger a wet rim of a cup to get your stupid free coffee or whatever.
You big rim finger.
You want to take a second to rephrase that, Gary?
No, I phrased it meaningfully.
Okay. I mean, there was something to be said, and I think this is what the press release from Tim Hortons says, that people missed the tactile nature of rolling up the actual rim. And that's why they brought it back. I think there is still a digital component to that game. I could be wrong, but I think principally it's all about it's going to be the rolling. I think that's great. Here's the thing. I love when fast food places do contests. I love it. It feels so participatory. I feel like I can get involved. I don't feel like there's any obstacles. I feel like it's so fair because anybody can just play. It's a lot of fun to me. I like to get involved in those things. It's my way of participating in a common culture.
You would really love online sports betting.
No, I enjoy this sort of low stakes. It's a lot of fun to play these games. I wish more places played these games.
So you said you love.
I actually think it's for the best that Tim doesn't get into online sports betting, because as soon as he started seeing like only 16 more bets until I get 5 bonus dollars to use, oh man, let's go. Let's make them all tonight.
Speaking of which, if you want to help out the Pat Mayo experience, use code Mayo at Underdog right now. You'll get a free pick and a deposit bonus of not up to $5, up to $1,000. That would be fantastic. What other of these fast food restaurants have contests like this in games?
Well, yeah, Tim Hortons and McDonald's are the first two that I can think of. There's a gas station here that used to run a contest every summer where you could collect stickers on a game board and then win prizes. Trying to think if there's anywhere else that's done them. Not off the top of my head, although I'm sure people are like yelling at me through the phone of examples of these types of games that take place, but I can't think of too many off the top of my head.
I can't think of any.
They should.
Like, does Burger King run anything like this?
No, that's what I was saying. Like, Burger King really doesn't. Harvey's doesn't really. I mean, A&W doesn't. They just have like themed things that come out, like the Blue Jays themed whistle dog, or like various things that come out as like attractions, but they're not like games to play, as I remember.
Well, this brings us back to the first vintage topic from the very first Cust Corner. Do you remember fast food related, Gary, and what that topic might be?
Okay, so 2017.
I remember what it was.
Well, you said you just listened to it. That's why I asked Gary and not you.
I mean, I would have to. I'm going to just go with like an OG answer here. I assume it has something to do with Subway.
No, it has something to do with another fast food restaurant and an online Twitter exchange.
Oh, was this the Wendy's thing?
It was Wendy's free nuggets. So
God.
8 years later, Tim, how do you feel about the nuggets guy who wanted free nuggets?
So I listened to that segment. The first thing I noticed was that it was only like 6 minutes long. And like now, if something like that was bothering me, I don't know that I could clear my throat in 6 minutes before I got in to the meat of the problem.
Your producer's dream.
Yeah, like we got into that issue and out of that issue really quickly. I stand by, in principle, my idea that I don't like people online begging for free things unnecessarily. It's not a good look.
It,
I
it,
don't think people need free nuggets for life.
I mean, it was free nuggets for
Fine if you
life.
win it. It's fine if you win it in a contest.
Why?
It's fine.
But this was like the first of one of these things. It's if I can get to X amount of retweets, free nuggets for life. And they said, sure. This is a lot different. That I think about how much the culture has changed, Gary, and even online since the free nuggets thing. Now that people are demanding sports books refund their losing bets because they lost. Like that, I feel like there's a big difference in that chasm.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't think of the last example of this I saw, like this particular type of sort of engagement baiting. But it also just might be that it's crazy how much this stood out 8 years ago as engagement baiting, when now essentially what 70-80% of Twitter is just some form of engagement baiting, whether it's like those
Yeah,
crazy
advertising.
quote tweet things or just like people who are obviously I mean, this is a funny thing to say to Tim. People who are obviously taking a contrarian side of something just to stir up engagement and have people tell them they're wrong in the replies and stuff like that. But it's weird. This almost takes me back to like a simpler time, a more I don't know, more fun time of Twitter. I mean, I know Pat, we
I
always
agree.
talk about that night. I think it was the 2011 baseball season, like the game 162, where there was like all these the Rays were trying to get in and the Red Sox were trying to get in, and there's these three games happening.
I vividly remember the like 3-minute video package and voiceover you put together for that night.
I can still
Yeah,
see
for-
Evan Longoria flip a 300-yard home run just barely over the left field wall.
Yeah, and then like Dan Johnson, I think, was one of them too. But anyway, that was so fun as like a baseball fan. But I just remember we were in college at that time and coming in the next day and everyone just sort of being like, oh, that's what Twitter's for. Because we had it because we sort of had to for news, but that was such an organic and fun experience where, even though I was watching those games alone in my basement in Scarborough, I just felt like I was talking to everyone in the world who was watching those games. And that was really what sucked me in. And, even something like the Nuggets guy at engagement baiting, it was, I don't know, it was just like that Twitter character of the day thing that used to happen, where there was just one thing every day where it was like, that was the talk of Twitter. And it was usually pretty innocent. And now it's just kind of like cesspool-y, but
Oh, totally.
that was such a nice, I don't know, just kind of a nice thing to think about, honestly.
The
That somehow
best
just
day
went
I remember,
nuts for life.
now that you mentioned, the best day on Twitter was Black Tuesday. The day that they gave me 280 characters
Oh
and then
my
took it away
God.
from me.
Oh, I wonder what episode that was.
I don't know. There was an experience for people who probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Although if you're listening to this show, you probably do. There was this moment in Twitter history where people remember you only had 140 characters in which you could express your thoughts. And they rolled out this really revolutionary idea that you could have 280 characters to express your thoughts. And it wasn't given to everybody at once. It was sort of just randomly assigned to people with no rhyme nor reason. And at one point, I got the power to do it. And I had great fun with it. And I was teasing people who only had 140 characters, that they were on the beta version of Twitter. And I was having a great time. And then that same night, cosmically, they took it away from me and I was back to 140 again. And then I had all those people who I had been mocking from high on my throne making fun of me. And, in retrospect, that was a really fun night. Social media used to be a lot more of an enjoyable experience circa 2018, 2017 than it is in the year of our Lord 2025.
And maybe we can make social media great again, Tim. Maybe that should be your directive.
I mean, there was a time, I'm going to sound like an old person.
There was a time where you were lay wizard.
That also, do people get that reference?
No,
Okay.
Absolutely not. I was shocked by the amount of people who got my Marilyn Manson, Xander Shoffley ribs joke.
Oh, that's a very common reference for anybody between the age of like 31 and 40.
Okay, so I don't know how that is possible. Do you know what I'm talking about, right, Garion?
We're talking about Marilyn Manson ribs.
Yeah, Marilyn
Yes.
Manson undergoing surgery to remove his
Surgery to
ribs so he
remove
could
his
suck
rib,
his
yeah.
own dick. That was a
Yeah.
thing.
Everybody knows that. Everybody knew that.
But how did everyone know that? I don't understand.
I don't
it.
know.
It happened in like that rumor was out in like 1998. Yet everyone in the middle school and junior high schoolyard knew exactly what you were talking about. How did that spread? I don't understand.
It's like a mega game of telephone where it only takes one person to just like tell other people, and it just went from school to school to school, I guess. Because like everybody knew that.
I mean, I guess it just takes like because the internet existed,
Sort of.
so
Yeah, but
not
this wasn't
everyone was
spread.
on it.
This
But
wasn't
there were still
spread.
chat rooms, so it just takes
Yeah,
like one
guess.
older brother to be in a chat room and hear that, and then tell his younger brother, and then that younger brother takes it to school. Like it is
Yeah.
kind of crazy how it does spread, and how that is just one of those societal things that, like Tim said, between the ages of what, like 29 to 42 or something like that, you probably know exactly what someone's talking about if they're like, or if they even just say Marilyn Manson. You don't have to say rib. That's like
That's the
third
first
thing.
thought that often comes to your mind.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like one of the first sort of
Yeah.
urban legend things I heard, right?
Absolutely. No, I'm on board. Everybody knew about it. So like Pat says, I'm shocked people knew about it. It's like, well, no, people actually know about it around the world.
And that's even a thing where like we're 3 Canadian people talking about this. Like I'm sure that whole thing originated by some like American kid.
Oh,
somewhere.
no doubt.
Someone said it, put it on a GeoCities message board, and someone saw it, I guess.
Yeah,
it was
playing
on- it was-
Neopets and it got out.
So did the guy ever get his free nuggets? Did he win the nuggets for life? Whatever happened to that guy?
I
can
don't remember.
look that up.
Whatever happened to free
I suspect
nuggets
he
guy?
did.
It would have been good promotion to give it to him.
I just assume.
Carter Wilkinson, aka Nugget Boy, who received free Wendy's chickens nuggets for a year, said he was happier after the initial excitement died down. He also said he'd advise others who become famous on social media to have fun and not make a big deal about it. He was featured in a Katy Perry music video. He said that he was heartbroken when Wendy's responded to his tweet. And he was interviewed on The Ellen Show.
Huh. That reminds me though, somebody said recently, it was somebody who again was like kind of the character of the day on Twitter. And it was Hawk Tuah. They were talking about Hawk Tuah. And they were saying 10 years ago, this girl just would have been on Ellen, gotten her 3 days of fame, and then gone away. And that was taking Ellen out of the equation has ruined our society.
Also, Wendy's gave Wilkerson $1,000 worth of gift cards to cover a year's supply of nuggets, and then they donated $100,000 to the Dave Thomas Foundation.
Tim, how long do you think $1,000 of McDonald's gift cards would last you? Would that be the equivalent of a year?
For me?
Well, for you, I probably could be.
Tim budgeted more of this to play. Tim budgeted more of this to play McDonald's Monopoly one year.
That's not true. That's not true.
But I'm just saying, Tim hates when a box tells him that a meal is for 4. Imagine his favorite company telling him that this is the amount of money we think is.
Well, I would ask them if this was just. I would ask them if this was just an advance.
It's fair.
$1,000 is the equivalent of what? $50 a week.
Yeah.
What does that work out to be?
Less than that,
Oh,
actually.
it'd be $20 a week, wouldn't it?
$20 a week. Yeah, see, that's. I mean, yes, okay. God, don't say that out loud.
Would you hire Lionel Hutz to
God.
represent you
God.
in a case against the
Oh,
all-you-can-eat buffet?
$20 a week equals $1,000 a year. I don't even want to think about it. That kind of math scares me.
How much do you think you spend per year on McDonald's?
This is what I'm beginning to wonder. Oh my God, I don't know. Too much. The answer is too much.
It's a slippery slope. Like when I was working freelance, because you technically get to write off like a meal. I was like, how could I possibly quantify this? And I just went on my Uber Eats and was like, how much did I spend on Uber Eats this year? And a couple months in, you're like, oh boy. Oh boy. I don't even know if I want to know this answer, even if I can get a little tax write-off here.
You know,
even when I look at my screen time, even that bothers me.
At the time, that became the most retweeted tweet of all time.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's like saying the history of dance is like the most watched YouTube video. Like it's probably like 30th overall now.
It might be, but still, that's
That was
crazy.
like 7 years in. Or even longer. Didn't Twitter start in like 2008?
Yeah, I don't know.
I checked it the other day. I've been on it since 2009, so I've been more than 15 years on Twitter now. Is there like an expiry date of this that we just all get off?
Maybe.
We could just close up the internet completely.
You just
Say
hit
goodbye.
that. I mean, you want the internet to be closed. You wish the internet didn't exist.
There are some days where I think humanity would be better served if we didn't have the internet. There's a lot of amazing things that it does, and there's all kinds of beautiful blessings that the internet provides us. But there's also a significant downside that we don't always take the full measure of or consider the consequences of. And I'm not sure which is the heavier side of the scale, the benefits or the drawbacks some days.
Would you have said that in 2008?
No, probably not. I don't think I thought the internet was going to. I mean, in 2008, most people still only had so many minutes a month.
That's not true.
Of internet.
You're
By
thinking of like
2008?
1998.
Okay.
You're thinking a decade
right.
before when you put in like your AOL disk and like you had 30 minutes of internet time and then you could go on your way. By 2008, like people had, it was like basically the beginning of smartphones. So do you think that the internet would have been better if you could have only ever accessed it from the computer, not on your phone?
Yes.
Yes.
I
Yes.
agree.
I think that's the nexus. I think we would all be better. I think we'd have almost all of the benefits and a lot fewer of the drawbacks if smartphones had never existed. So maybe that's the real bone of contention here.
And
I
that's
think 2008 was the actual year I got. Remember the Samsung slidey phones?
oh
Like, it was
yeah.
a brick, but you could slide it open and it had a little keyboard. I got that, and I remember realizing I could sign on to I remember bringing up like ESPN.com, and you could only see it in sort of that like back end view where it's just like the blue words, like home news.
Yeah.
Like, I was so excited that I could bring this up on my phone. And yeah, now that is sort of I look at that almost like a touch point of like, oh God, it was so much easier when I didn't have this.
I remember being in Calgary with Tim in like 2011. Remember that phone that I bought to go to Bonnaroo?
Yes, you were so proud of that phone.
Oh my God.
Goodness. It was like a knockoff smartphone.
It was like I don't know if it was a Samsung. It may have been like the first gen Samsung, and it was so bad. So bad. I was like, oh, I'll be able to connect to the internet. I'll be able to make phones. It just like I don't even think it was 3G back then. It was probably just G.
No.
G minus. Maybe
We
it
had
was
a friend
H.
who had a Palm Pilot for years. He was so proud of his Palm Pilot. And now it's like that is such a archaic technology, but we were all happier then.
I feel like we really were. I'm at odds with it because I don't have a career if it's not for smartphones. So,
Yeah.
So I have to wrestle with that part of it too.
Nah, but you would have succeeded in any number of things you put your hand to. So
I don't
you-
know.
you would have found a way
You
to
have
work.
more faith in me than I do. I feel like this is the one thing in life I could have succeeded at, and I did.
Yeah, but you would have found a way to succeed in this medium without, like, in a world where smartphones didn't exist. I mean, podcasts predate smartphones, so there would still be podcasting. It would still develop in a different way. Then there would still be YouTube. There would still be it wouldn't be on your phone. It would be a different dynamic, but like everybody would be in the same boat because none of these things would exist.
I just don't think there'd be any money in it. Is the problem? I mean, there's barely money in it for the amount of
Yeah,
people
but
that do
you
it
have to
now.
remember, 2009, we used to walk around making fun of the idea of someone having a degree in social media, and just the very idea of it seems like so outlandish that like we used to laugh about it. Now, if someone told me they had an advanced degree in social media studies, I'd say, "Oh yeah, that seems totally reasonable. That would be a thing that would happen."
It's like, yeah, that's much better than my political science degree. That could actually be useful.
So, yes, I think we've actually come upon a very important point here: that the internet's not the problem; smartphones are the problem.
Is that your campaign promise to the people? Get rid of smartphones? I bet that'll
No,
go
you
well.
can't. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's over now. But if you could wind the clock back to 2007 and not have the type of smartphones because they're incredibly addictive, while there are of course lots of pluses that come from having personal phones, we all have them, and there's a reason we do. I think our lives would probably be better on the whole if we didn't have.
Garion, smartphones are so I mean, they're not even smartphones. There's phones at this point. No one has a house phone anymore, except for like my grandma. But phones are
I have
so
a number. I found that out recently.
well,
I did not realize I'd been paying for I have a phone number that I did not know I had.
so we found out here at the office because we have the cable system and it's all linked. Apparently, we have a phone number too, and that's like the password to anything. I had to call in and be like, I didn't even know I had a phone. Can you please tell me the phone number? And it's like, well, we need to like completely verify you are who you say you are to get this random phone number that no one else that isn't even hooked up to a phone. It's never been used.
That no one's ever called ever.
Yeah, no, literally no one knows it besides you, and I need you to tell it to me so I can fill this out. Because they're like, what is your phone number? So I put in my cell phone number. Like, that's not your number. It's like, well, it's the only number I have. I've had this number for like 15 years. What would be more devastating? Like, if you lost your phone number and you had to change it, because you changed your phone number. I wouldn't say not too long ago, probably like 6 years ago or so. Like
No, 2017, the same year I moved back from Calgary.
Yeah, so it's been 8 years since you changed your number. And remember, you lost your Twitter.
That was a disaster.
Yeah.
I had to switch numbers back so I could get back into the phone to then switch it back again.
I forgot about that too.
But could you imagine changing your number now, Garion?
So actually, Carly, my fiance, I don't know who doesn't know. She had to change her phone number like a month and a half ago, I think. And it has been sort of strange where you realize how few numbers you know, even to like the important people in your life. And just even now in Toronto, I guess they've run out of 416 and 647s for area codes.
Which,
so now we're on
which also
4
seems
37s?
impossible, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Because again, well, you know what? You know what it might be is that a bunch of us bought cable and we apparently have 416 home phone numbers that I've never used in my life.
Yeah, but do the
maybe I should give that
permutations
back
and
to the people.
Do the combinations and permutations of 7-digit numbers
The billions.
for each of them. Yeah, like there's no way you should ever be able to run out of both.
I don't know
Yeah,
how
it's
it's
a-
allocated.
it's
There must be some
massive.
sort of parameters put in place for that. It would just be like getting your number back to people. I'm sure it actually wouldn't be that big of a deal. It just sounds like a gigantic hassle that I wouldn't want to go through. Welcome to the TGL presented by SoFi, golf's newest league. It's sharp. It's electric. How sharp is it? How electric is it? Good questions. Try this on for size. 2 hours of hammer dropping, overtime, forcing, playoffs on the line, golf, with 24 of the best players from the PGA Tour, split into 6 teams: Atlanta, Boston, Jupiter, LA, New York, and the Bay Golf Club. This isn't your average Sunday pickup game. Tune into TGL Monday or Tuesday night only on ESPN. Claim yourself a seat for the first season of TGL now. Keep up. It's golf. But you guys hit on something a little bit earlier that I kind of want to revisit because I started racking my brain about it. Who do you think the biggest characters of the day on the internet have been?
Ooh.
Ever. Like
All
Hawk
time?
Hawk Tua has to be up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's probably parlayed it into, depending on how much money she made off with, she's probably parlayed it into the best career.
Does Charlie Sheen count for this? Because I still think
No,
in my
because he was
that
somebody
wasn't really a
before.
Twitter thing, was it?
Yeah, I'm not just saying Twitter, just like, but just think about how that
But he live
proliferated
streamed.
through.
That was like a
Yeah, on Ustream, I watched it. You have Rick weighed
Yeah.
in. Rick was there. His
We
friend
did.
Rick.
We watched it.
Who I think is dead now. But either
I
way,
think that's
there was
right.
a Charlie Sheen comedy tour that I almost went to, Garion, in 2000, I want to say 11. They came to Toronto, and I was going to go, and it was like $500 a ticket. And I can assure you, in 2011, I did not have $500.
I can confirm to you that it was 2011 because
Winning.
that was the year we graduated CSM and I got an internship at Sportsnet. And one of my, we haven't been paying you, but here's like a thing we can do for you rewards was I got to go to the Rogers Center and trail Roger Millions as he was doing like sideline reporter for that series. And one of the days I walked in, Charlie Sheen was throwing out the first pitch and everyone was making a really big deal about it because obviously that whole thing was like, fastball. And it was just, I guess the correlation was right there. But yeah, that was during his big comedy tour that came to Toronto in 2011. So summer 2011.
Rob Ford was the person of the internet on more than one occasion.
Yeah, but I think
his
that was,
NFL tie.
I feel like that was more localized than anything. Like the Sheen thing blew
No,
up.
that was an
He
international
was
story.
on like Kimmel.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure,
yeah.
sure.
Did-
But you think it was as big as something like Charlie Sheen? Like going back and I
Maybe.
remember when I cut all those clips to make a soundboard?
Yeah.
Yes, I hadn't thought about that in 10 years.
I'm a Vatican.
Yes.
I'm a Vatican assassin.
Who was it Ken Bone? That
Ken
guy
Bone.
who wore the red
I was
sweater?
just thinking about him. Ken Bone from that debate.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah. That was
Yes.
because he invented like the milkshake duck, wasn't it? Where everyone loved him for like a day because it seemed like he was great, and then someone dug into like he had like a criminal record or something like that, and was like, oh, maybe this guy's not as great as we think he is.
You're just some person asking a question at a town hall debate.
We may have gone over this a few times, but I think the Hawk Tua thing seems so big to me because I think it's so much harder to go viral now than it was at any point over the past 15 years, just with so many different social media platforms. And not like if you can translate from one to all of them and just like filter out, like that's like the ultimate, you won the internet.
You can't
Yeah, 'cause
have
there's
a
just
I
so
like
much.
turtles moment.
No, you can't have an I like turtles moment anymore. There was just YouTube then, or E-Bomb. Like E-Bomb's World would steal the best of
E-Bomb's
YouTube,
World.
and that was it.
Yeah, you're right. Back in in 2006, Hawk Tua just would have been a video you watched on E-Bomb's World, or someone would
Yes.
have auto-tuned it to make it like a funny song.
Oh, the dead giveaway guy.
Yeah.
Dead giveaway.
Dead
We
Giveaway's
eat ribs
big.
with this dude.
Oh, what about the hitchhiker who
The double rainbow guy?
yeah,
Oh yeah, Kai. That was his name.
guy,
Kai.
yeah, who then turned out to be a murderer.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's some girls up in that house, and just the
Yeah. We ate ribs with this dude.
That's what I remember. Yeah.
I have that like auto-tune song like on my Spotify playlist. Like it popped up the other day, and my wife's like, I remember this. This is great. Who was the other one though? There was the other guy who was like standing in an alleyway. Antoine something.
It was oh god, it's like a window or something. Oh god, he's wearing like a
Red toque, I want to say.
headband.
Maybe.
Oh, you know what even Jared, who's like 13 years old, remembers this one.
You're talking about the snatching your people up guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
it is. There it is. I also want to put it out there. Johnny Manziel.
He's like a real person.
Oh, yeah.
He's
fair
a
enough.
famous person.
Yeah, but
Very big.
Like
at the time.
there has to be a moment, right? Like there has to be like a moment, like a thing. Like
Oh.
when I mentioned Rob Ford, it's because I can think of a particular moment that went viral.
Was it about when he had enough to eat at home?
That would be the moment.
Or was it when he got caught on video smoking crack?
He's
That
got a
was a
couple.
different. That was a different moment. Poor
I-
guy.
Antoine Dodson is the guy's name. The Bed Intruder song.
Yeah.
The moment of the internet wasn't asking Serena Williams how much the wind affects her tennis stroke when
Could've gone viral.
she's returning a serve.
I mean, if they had the camera on me, maybe it could have went viral. But she answers stupid questions all the time. If they had saw who was asking it, maybe.
That was the day I met Pat, or the day before I met Pat. One of those two.
And I got so bored, I took a nap in the closet at the Rogers Stadium because I was done playing with. I shot my like funny video where I was making Monica Seles grunts on like the kids' practice facilities. Like, it's good enough. Good enough for me.
What about the guy recently? The guy at the World Series. Is that enough of a moment
Who?
to like capture people's attention? The guy at the
So-
World Series who stole the ball out of the left
I would just
fielder's
say that was
glove.
so formulaic. Like I think I even made a joke that night that was like, what are the odds this guy ends up on a Barstool podcast tomorrow? Like minus 10,000. And sure enough, he was on 3 different Barstool podcasts. I think he was actually offered his own Barstool podcast that day. Like now it seems like the mechanics of this stuff is pretty, I don't know, pretty straightforward. But still, I do think to Pat's point, like it's harder to transcend it all. Like, because again, that was a big moment if you were, watching the World Series, which less and less people are every year.
Yeah.
But Hawk Tua was just so monumental. Like my mom probably knows what Hawk Tua is.
I didn't even know about this baseball thing until you just said it.
Yeah, it was like the guy got recently. I read he got banned
Banned for
from all
life.
future baseball games.
They
Sure.
pulled a Pat.
Didn't
Oh, it's a terrible moment.
didn't
Yeah,
come across
tried to
my
pull
radar.
Mookie Betts' glove off.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, it was a big moment.
Here's a question for you. You guys both like the movies, the film, cinema. A lot of these young people these days do not like black and white movies. Jared actually brought this to my attention not too long ago. But if you had to pick a black and white movie, or at least an old movie, let's say 1975 and before, what would the one movie be that you told them to watch?
So I guess this takes the artist off the table.
We're just talking to the kids in general.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people who won't even watch a black and white movie because it's in black and white. They don't want to watch any sort of old movie because there's better movies now. But that's not necessarily true. So like I have a definitive answer, but I'm willing to hear some more here. We can power rank these.
But we want to say
any list must start with Casablanca.
No, see, I disagree. Casablanca kind of reeks.
I think it's a movie one must watch.
No, it's not. It's not because this isn't a film. This isn't a film. It's like Citizen Kane would be the one, but it's the one that you watch at the beginning of any like film history class to show where the next 100 years of movies were going to go. It was from this point on. But I wouldn't say like, hey, this is a great movie. You need to watch it. Like, unless you're really into movies, I mean, you could watch Citizen Kane. I enjoy it. And you can just be like, oh, I remember that Simpsons scene and that Simpsons scene. You can piece together the entire movie with Simpsons scenes from that point. Like, it's an influential movie. But if you had to pick one movie that they would enjoy to this day that doesn't seem wildly out of date, what movie would you make that? It's not Casablanca.
If it's 1975 specifically, I think Jaws is the easy answer.
That was not in black and white, though.
Well, he said it didn't have to be black and white. He just said an older movie from 75 or before.
Well, let's say 1970 and before then, because I guess The Godfather would fall into that too, and that would be the actual answer to this. But let's say before 1970.
Okay.
So I had said Psycho, but that's because I was thinking just black and white.
Psycho is a pretty good answer. I think out of all the Hitchcock,
good answer, yeah.
And of all, I think I like
Rear Window's fun too.
I think I like Vertigo or North by Northwest more.
I like those. I like The Birds.
The Birds is like
The Birds is kitschy though now. Like when someone watches it, I don't think they're actually terrified. They're just sort of laughing. They're laughing for the wrong reason.
And then Psycho probably falls into that trap too, because you have to remember these people have now consumed all the media all their lives. Yeah. That it's not like a big shock what happens in these movies anymore. And that's part of the original appeal of them. I have my answer. Doctor Strangelove.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's fast. It's like 92 minutes, and it remains as hilarious today as it was then.
That's fair.
There are very few.
For opposite reasons, Lawrence of Arabia is a great movie, but it's a commitment. It's like a 4-hour film.
I just don't think anyone has that attention span anymore. Although it is funny that movies seem to be getting longer and longer and longer and longer.
Well, because more and more people are watching movies in such a way that they can just push pause and walk away and come back tomorrow and complete them.
It's funny because I've gotten out of watching movies because I don't go to the theater all that much. I struggle watching movies at home. I like to watch movies in one way. Maybe it's the way that I was always conditioned. It's without my phone in a dark movie theater, and it has my full attention the entire time. I just don't get that at home, and therefore I don't want to watch a movie. I'd rather watch a TV show.
Yeah, I don't have the self-control, which is why I love going to the theater still. I mean, it helps that I live downtown. I can walk to a theater if I want to. But that's explicitly why I like going to the theater is it forces me to have to actually watch and experience the movie, where even if I'm really enjoying something, like this week I just started watching Severance, which is incredible. Like I'm captivated by it, but even still, like once an episode, I find myself looking at my phone just out of sheer, like, I guess addiction, honestly. So it is nice to have to go to the movies and almost sacrifice that part of you.
Dr. No, I would have that on my list.
No, I mean, out of all the early Bond movies, that's the one.
But it's the first. But it's the first one, and before
Gold...
you said before 1970, and there aren't that many before 1970.
Goldfinger and From Russia. Goldfinger. No, you really don't have to have seen Dr. No to get James Bond.
Sort of set the tone.
No, you don't.
I kind of disagree. Okay, maybe I'm
absolutely the tone setting though for James Bond. I mean, at this point, people just know what a Bond movie is, even if they've never seen one before. Like,
well,
the concepts are.
If they ever make another one, I'm beginning to wonder if they're going to.
It's only been like 4 years.
5 years. 5 years. That's an extremely long gap between Bond movies.
Like the Bonds, I mean, they're transitioning between Bonds. They still have to figure out who that's going to be. But you have
They've
like
had 4
it-
years to figure it out.
It's funny that you say Doctor No, and the 3 subsequent movies after Doctor No were 3 of the best Bond movies, and any of those would be the correct answer to that. You could
I
go
think you need
from
to see
Russia.
Dr. No first.
You shouldn't. It doesn't matter. It's actually kind of crappy. You go from Russia with Love, Goldfinger, or Thunderball. Like those 3 in a row are excellent.
Still think you need to see Dr. No first before you can enjoy
And that
those.
would be the one movie that well, we're not talking about watching other old movies. We're talking what's the one movie you get. You need to hook the people on the old movies, then they can go watch the other one. Showing them showing them one of the shittier Bond movies probably isn't a great idea.
Well, I think you're being unfair.
It is.
Now you're treating this like Octopussy, and I don't think that's right.
Okay, you're
Make
right.
him watch Moonraker.
Yeah.
Well, Moonraker is a different type of bad Bond movie. Moonraker is the best bad Bond movie by far because it is so outlandish. Like they even brought Shirley Booth back to sing the song, right?
Yeah.
Like the whole thing about Moonraker is that it is so over the top and outlandish that like anytime it's on TV, I'm watching Moonraker every time. If View to a Kill is on, I am not stopping to watch that movie. Or if, but that Moonraker in particular, that's a separate category. I will watch that movie every time it's on.
We ranked Bond movies in one of these, didn't we? One of the first 10, I want to say.
Probably.
Ranked
does
bad?
Seem like ground that we've covered.
Ranked bad movies?
No, Bond movies.
I mean, like
Yeah,
everyone
we did.
knows
That was Cust Corner. Where's Bond movies? I don't think we did it. I actually was talking to my friend Richard about this, that he's rewatching them all right now, that maybe we just I was going to say, hey, maybe we film it before the next Bond movie comes out and have it like in order coming out and ready to go. But as Cuss said, it might never come at this point.
like the great ones are great, and I don't think there's much discussion to be had about them. The real fun with the Bond movies are like the mediocre and bad ones.
Yeah, but
That's what's interesting.
it's different now.
Like, what take are you going to have on Goldfinger? Like, yeah, it's an awesome movie. Okay, next.
But it's completely campy at the same time too. Like that's
Not in the same way that, like I mentioned, not in the way that
a girl
Moonraker
literally ends up dead painted gold. It's pretty. I don't know what your definition of camp is, but
basically everything Roger Moore is involved in.
I just don't like. I mean, you killed Roger Moore, so I guess you have to stand up for him.
Like that scene from which is it? The Spy. It's The Spy Who Loved Me, and I still think that's the best opening all of Bond history when he's skiing down the mountain and it goes off the hill and the
With the
British
Union
Jack parachute. Like that's also very campy, but it's also awesome. Like that to me is like Bond at its highest.
I would say that
there's a reason
between
that
that,
Mike Myers was able to make 4 movies out of the camp level of Bond movies. Like they're very campy in their heart.
But the bad ones aren't anymore.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. The bad ones aren't because they take themselves too seriously. Like, so
Way
a
too seriously.
bad Bond movie now is bad.
Yeah, like what's the one where the French Canadian guy is like a cyber terrorist?
You're thinking of Quantum of Solace?
Quantum of Solace.
He's
oh
not,
my
he's
god,
not Canadian. He's a Danish guy, isn't he?
It's Danish. Okay, sorry. What a terrible movie that is.
I thought it was better than Spectre.
Spectre is also a terrible movie. They're not fun. Like the bad ones used to be fun. Now the bad ones are just morose.
So we did Cust Corner 4. We ranked best Bond movies. Maybe that is a topic we'll have to revisit again in the future.
Was that right when Skyfall came out?
I think it was when Skyfall came out. Now Skyfall, one of the better Bond movies. Like,
Skyfall is fantastic.
Like I can't remember.
Also a great opening to a Bond movie.
What was the opening of Skyfall? Because I'm thinking like best Bond movie openings. Like The Spy Who Loved Me, yes. I would have said the Casino Royale one where they're in Africa and running up and like doing parkour up and down those cranes.
That's what I was thinking. It is. You're right. It's yeah.
The opening to No Time to Die was excellent.
I don't remember it, so
I
couldn't have been that
No
great.
Time to Die.
Yeah. Well, I actually liked No Time to Die better than you did.
It was fine.
Oh, that's the most recent one.
I thought it was pretty
I think I
good.
would remember
The most
that.
recent. I think that was pretty good.
I just felt like it was a bad knockoff of Skyfall.
Yes, it was. But in the same way that I really liked the Force Awakens Star Wars movie, yes, it was a cheap knockoff of A New Hope, but it was still a good movie because A New Hope is such a good movie, if you know what I mean. Like, so the fact that it was a knockoff of a really good movie means that I was going to enjoy it. And like when he went to Cuba or whatever, like that was a really cool scene. When he had the car that went around in a circle shooting, like I really, like Garion knows, like I really enjoyed No Time to Die. I didn't love it as much as Skyfall or Casino Royale, but I liked it a heck of a lot more than Spectre or Quantum of
I
Solace.
get what you're saying. Like, especially the Star Wars sort of like parable there, where, yeah, like I also feel like I enjoyed, episode 7, and then the sort of nostalgia wore off as the longer that particular
And
trilogy
8
went.
and 9 were just dreadful movies.
Yeah.
Just
But,
unwatchable garbage.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying. I do. But yeah, I think clearly when we're talking about the newer Bond movies, the first two are far superior to anything that came after them.
I really hope whoever is the new Bond, they actually make it a kind of a comedy and they don't take themselves too seriously. I hope they pick somebody who's like got a comedic background. It doesn't have to be a comedian, but someone who's got like an experience playing a comedic style actor in the movies, so that they can like bring that to James Bond.
You should have a list right now.
Yeah.
Let's rank your next Bonds.
So based on Cust criteria, do you know who actually would have been excellent for this 25 years ago?
I assume we're talking about a British person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you have to be British to be Bond.
Yeah, fair.
I guess you could be Irish too. That's fair. Yeah, I'm including like, Welsh into there and Scottish into there and Northern Irish into there as well. But I think Hugh Laurie would have been an awesome Bond.
Oh,
Hugh Laurie would have been a good Bond.
Because I didn't realize like how hilarious Hugh Laurie is and that he's actually a comedian. Because the first time I ever saw him was in House. I was like, hey, he's funny because he's an asshole. But he's playing like a serious-ish character. But he was hilarious in Veep, and he's hilarious in everything that I've subsequently seen from what he did before House. Like, oh, this guy's actually funny.
No, I agree.
I don't know if he has the
large
physicality for
amount of
it, but that's he has that gimp leg. It's tough to get around.
I was gonna say, I feel like I'm attributing him to a character at this point, not his actual person, but I'm not sure.
So who else would be on that like funny British list for you, Tim?
I don't know, because whoever it is can't be that famous.
So not Jimmy
Right?
Carr?
No.
he has the face mash down. He can look like anyone.
It's true.
He's got to be next in line to play Ethan Hunt. He's got the face changing technology.
It has to be someone who's relatively not well known, because Bond, whoever is Bond, like you have to believe he is James Bond, not he is Tom Hardy playing James Bond. I mean, yes, it's true. Pierce Brosnan was Remington Steele, but I guess that wasn't big enough of a role to dissuade people from picking him as Bond.
I think it had been long enough from that being off the air in between. And you have to remember how TV used to be treated versus the movies.
It's like the opposite now.
In a lot of ways, yeah. I thought the guy from season 2 of White Lotus would have made a great Bond, because when I found out that he was British, he was sexy man. He looks like a James Bond. And then I found out he was British, and he's like not 70 years old. It's like, all right, let's do this guy. I don't even know what his name was. White.
He's in some car commercial that airs all the time now, and I'm just like, oh, that guy. I also didn't know he was British.
Yeah,
but I just assume everyone's British, honestly.
I mean, it really does help out in that sense. If you just assume everyone's British in Hollywood, and you're like, oh yeah, that makes way more sense now. Need to find out what this guy's name is. That's coming back soon too.
What is?
Like a month. Same with last season of Righteous Gemstones. We're gonna get back to a nice HBO is important again stretch here.
Theo James is the guy's name.
Theo James.
I was like, he's a young guy. He's like older than me. He's 40. He's got me by a couple months.
He's got the look, for sure.
He does. He's a handsome fella. He does a voice in X-Men 95 or 97. And he's in a movie called The Gentleman, which I watched. It's funny because Bond movies have gone in that way now. Like Guy Ritchie has a whole bunch of these. The Matthew Vaughn productions. Those are basically just what Bond movies... I mean, Bond movies got super serious after Batman and Chris Nolan got super serious. So they changed Bond to be darker to fit that motif. And then you have these like weird like Netflix comedies. And like they did hit theaters at one point. But like the Guy Ritchie, Matthew Vaughn style of like fun, caper, Secret Service type thing kind of took Bond's place of that style.
And it's also... I think it's one of those like course correction things too, where, when you used to be casting for a Bond, like Tim was kind of saying, where, you don't want someone who's super notable. You don't want someone who you're already attributing to another character. It's just harder to do now. Like to your point, Pat, of like an attractive kind of funny person who is, from the UK, who'd be a great Bond. Like that is Taron Egerton. but now he's the guy from the Kingsman movies. Like he can't just be Bond now. Or it's like Tom Holland, but he's Spider-Man, so he can't
The
be Bond.
only person in those movies who can be famous are the villains. I really believe that. Like I could like Judi Dench is too famous to have been M, and Ray Fiennes is too famous to be the new M. Like that doesn't work for me. The fellow who plays Q is relatively unknown, so that was fine. But the only person that you can have whomever as the villain. That works. But you just can't have famous people in important. This sounds like I'm being very pedantic, but like I really like these movies, and I like when they really like everything meshes. And I think the casting is so important to get right, and I think they've gotten it wrong so many times over the last 15 years.
You got any other topics? Because I have a life tip for you.
I'm all ears.
Now, I don't. Maybe it's just because I feel this way. I'm on my phone all day. I speak for a living. When I get my haircut, Garion, I don't want anyone to talk to me. But it'd be very rude to be like, hey, can you not talk to me? Also, I have this thing jammed up my ear now for 17 straight years that I don't hear very well out of this ear, especially when there's like a razor going by it that I really can't hear a word you're saying. It just all sounds garbled to me. So I went to this new place. I had to rush in and get my hair cut. Pretty decent job, I must say. They understood 2 on the side, 4 on the top, and we're off to the races. But it was, I think it's a new place. I think it's a Syrian barbershop, and the guy who ran it spoke some English. The guy that cut my hair spoke no English. It was glorious.
My last haircut was by a Russian girl who did not speak a lot of English, and I had a similar sort of time. It was nice. It was a longer haircut too. It took her like 50 minutes.
50
minutes.
I was sort of I put a premium on like if you can get me like in and out within 10 minutes, like I will tip you whatever the haircut costs. Like that sort of time saving for me is great. I don't want to be there. I have the simplest white guy haircut you could ever have. And I get my haircut every 2 weeks. So it's not like it's super shaggy going in. So if you can just make this like 7 minutes of my time, I will be forever grateful.
Yeah, that was probably part of it. I had pretty long hair at that point. I don't think I'd had a haircut in like 4 months.
Fucking
It should
Josh
almost
Allen?
be like, because everything's online anyway at this point when it comes to like booking your haircuts. You really should almost have like that thing Uber does, where you get to pick if you want a silent ride or a talkative ride. Like you should be able to do that with a haircut.
I tend to agree. Although I don't need to go to a fancy haircutting place because I have a very generic haircut. Like, why would I pay $100 for a haircut when I could still pay like $22 after tax for a haircut? It's going to be the same haircut either way. I even bought shears to do it myself during COVID. The problem is I could never really get the back of my head. Then I cut it way too short once, and I looked like a Yoho DJ, and that really wasn't the scene that I wanted to go to. But the music in all these places, Tim, and even shopping malls, grocery stores, whatever it might be, the music hasn't changed in 40 years. It's the same music still.
Yes, you're right. I like talking to these people. Like I like the times that I've been in an Uber. I like chatting with the person the whole ride if possible. I like talking to the person who cuts my hair, ask them how they're doing, stuff like that. That doesn't bother me. I mean, I don't mind making that type of conversation. I get that some people, for various reasons, don't, but like, yeah, when like you had an Uber ordered for me at your Christmas party, like I chatted with that person all the way there, and then I chatted with the person back all the way back.
Oh God,
So
is that why my rating went
fascinated by
down?
this dynamic.
I don't think so. We were very
Tim-
cordial, very positive conversation.
Tim, I'm just so curious because you're someone who is on the record, and I know you get laughed at for this, but I think it is generational. Because I don't have it nearly to the point you have it, but I'm also someone who, if I can avoid a phone conversation, I will.
Yes,
But for someone who has that sort of fear to have a telephone conversation with like a pizza delivery person or something along those lines, where you're literally getting on the phone with intent to do something, there's an obvious reason for a conversation to be had at this point, and there seems to be sort of mental blockade for you there. I'm surprised that you like having a sort of open-ended conversation with someone
I'm there.
for an even longer period of time.
because I'm there and I'm with that person. And I think there is something to be gained from once you're in a circumstance where you are in the same car or right next to the same person, that you can learn something and have a conversation with people that you wouldn't otherwise meet, perhaps. I think it's a good use of one's time. I could just look at my phone, but I look at my phone all day. This is an opportunity where, that I can just have a genuine conversation with somebody who's in who lives a different life than me, who's going to different places than me, and just ask them, so how was your day? What did you get up to? And like, if they're not interested in talking, well, they won't. But if they probably, from my experience, seem to enjoy someone taking a genuine interest in their day. And like, it doesn't cost me anything to be friendly, or to ask strike up a short conversation with somebody who I'll probably never see again in my life.
I
But
think
for 15 minutes,
I think
you
that
I are in the
there's.
same place at the same time.
I think it's because you've been in like 3 Ubers ever.
But it's like that anytime I used to take a taxi as well.
You don't take many
And I used to take
taxis.
them, not anymore. I used to take them a lot more when I didn't live here.
And did you keep
Uh,
chat with the driver all the time?
Almost always.
Really? Wow, that blows my
I
mind.
think there is something to what he was saying, though, where it's like you never see that person again. Because I do find some of the reason that I'm sometimes a little bit agitated is probably the wrong word, but hesitant to like strike up a conversation with my barber is I find that I like to go to the same barbershop. And I'm not like Pat. I tend to get my hair cut a little bit like I'll just cut it short, let it grow long, cut it short. So
Hippie.
sometimes it's like 3 to 4 months before I go get my hair cut again. But again, it is the same person who has cut my hair like 2 or 3 times. You get to that point where you've met a person a bunch of times, but not nearly enough and sporadically enough where you don't really remember what you were talking about last time, but you kind of do. So I feel like I have to, there's the go-tos during a 20-minute conversation with someone where it's just like, so what do you do? Family, wife, kids, etc. And I just feel like I end up having the same conversation with somebody over and over and over again across 4 months. And it just makes me a little like, ugh, I'm just tired of it,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's fair.
Absolutely.
I try to remember these things, but not everybody. Everyone's got various things on the go. I can remember some of this stuff, weirdly enough. Like I can remember moments from a conversation, like and bring them back up. But I get not everybody's like that. So I totally understand where Garion's coming from. You don't want to have the same weird, awkward conversation 4 times in 4 months.
But I feel like this awkward conversation that you have getting in an Uber and getting into a cab at the barber, whatever it is, it's the same awkward conversation over and over.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
whatever.
I don't think that not talking, when I specifically put quiet please, like quiet preferred into my settings, isn't necessarily unfriendly. It's not like I won't talk to the person if they talk to
I
me.
agree.
But I'm not going out of my way to like engage the conversation. It's like when I got my haircut, it would annoy me that I'd have to continue to respond to these questions that I couldn't fucking hear the entire time. Just have to guess what they were saying. But I also at the same time, like even I told them like I don't hear that well out of this ear. And they would talk to me in that ear. Like they don't care, they just want to talk.
I empathize. I completely think your position is valid and sensible, and what works for you works for you. Like genuinely, and what works for Garion works for Garion. What works for me is I don't see these people very often because I don't take Ubers very often. I don't. So this is an opportunity for me to just to chat and say, hey, who are you? Where are you from? What's your life story? And people are often very interested in having conversations when somebody actually shows some interest in them. And I just think it's a good use of one's time. I learned something about their culture or about them personally, and they learn something about me. And you meet all kinds of people from all kinds of places. Some people right here locally, and you have conversations. People who came from all over the world, and you meet something about them. I just think it's a really interesting way to pass 15 or 20 minutes that will be more useful to me and more memorable than just scrolling mindlessly through Twitter, which is just time I've set on fire. But that's me. Other people feel completely differently, and I appreciate that. But if I'm in the circumstance where I'm with another person, no matter who they are or where they're from, why not have a brief chat? I'll never see them again. This is like the one opportunity I may ever have to meet this person, and who knows what they have to say.
This is one of the myriad reasons that people think that you're a better person than me, because you are. Because
I don't think that makes a person a better person.
I'm putting in my headphones and being like, I'm listening to something and just leaning back, closing my eyes and waiting to go to where I need to go.
I got no problem with that either. I think there's no better or worse way to be. There's just different ways to be.
Pat idea though that I remember from 10, 15 years ago, which is just when you get into an Uber, be wearing headphones because then they won't talk to you.
Well, I respect that. Everybody has their own ways to communicate or not communicate, or there's stressful days that they don't want to. I respect that. I'm just saying this is what I like to do.
I was once like you. I enjoyed talking to the driver. And, if I have a few drinks into me, then I'm like, I'm just yucking it up the entire time. But, that's what's going to happen. I need to look at my account right now to see, let's see, how many rides have I taken? I wonder if they will tell me that in my life. That after like ride 200, it was just the same thing over and over.
It would be funny though if you had a better Uber rating than Tim. If people are actually giving him 4s because he won't stop asking these damn questions.
Maybe. I mean, he travels on my Uber rating. I think it's the only time he's ever taken Uber. But my Uber rating currently is 4.86, and that's after 600 or so rides. All right, a few more topics here. Biggest laugh that you've ever experienced in a movie theater, like a collective laugh. I have a short list to give you guys. I did some research on this one. And they're all from like 20 years ago when I was actively going to movies, when everyone went to like the hilarious R-rated comedies that was going on. But Will Ferrell Jack Black punting Baxter over the bridge in Anchorman may have been the biggest like, and then like collective laughter I've ever heard.
Yeah. That's a pretty big one.
I didn't see that in theaters. I saw it with people later, and people were laughing at the scene, but I didn't see that in theaters.
So some other ones, short list here. Michael Cera singing These Eyes in Superbad was pretty big.
Yeah. So mine would be from Superbad, because again, I think I'm with Tim. I don't think I actually saw Anchorman in theater because I would have been 11 or 12.
Oh yeah,
so
you're young.
I might have just not been allowed to go see that in
Oh,
theater.
I think the scene where McLovin is describing why he chose the name McLovin
That's a
and
big
why
one.
it was between that and Muhammad. Like, why would those be your two choices? Muhammad's the most popular first name in the world. Learn something. Read a book, and the whole place erupted into laughter.
I was gonna say that when there's that lead up to what Seth's secret is, like why he was in therapy when he was a kid, and you find out it's just he loved drawing dicks. I remember there was a guy sitting in front of me who had just shoveled in a handful of popcorn, and he was like visibly choking. He was laughing so hard. And oh god, that was great too. Because so rarely now do I go to a movie. Now, granted, sometimes I'll go at like 9. I like the late showings, but I so rarely get to see a movie with a full house anymore. But oh man, some of those big comedies that came out like 2006, 2010, just uproarious laughter sometimes.
So I have a few more. When they do the close-up of Ben Stiller's ball being caught in the zipper in Something About Mary, it was just 20 minutes of people laughing.
Again, a movie I did not see in theaters. I saw later.
I think that's a movie I've seen most in theaters because I was like 14 when it came out, or even like 13. I think I saw it 5 times in theater. I may have seen it twice in one day. That's how funny I thought it was, like as a kid. Other ones, just there were certain moments in The Hangover that I think work for that. But Borat dropping the not and then it cutting to the next scene, like the pause, not after the guy tries to speak was absolutely killer.
Yeah. And that too, I would say like every movie has a lot of those movies that when I was in high school when they came out, they obviously had a shelf life and they were popular, but that movie, honestly, like there was one friend I had who legitimately talked like Borat for 6 months.
I mean, I think the Borat voice goes in cycles. Like it's coming back again soon.
I hope so. It's great.
We went to go see The Hangover when they take away hit Zach Galifianakis' bag. He says, there were Skittles in there. That the whole theater erupted. It was so random.
There was a pretty big pop, I think too, when Ken Jeong naked jumps out of the trunk and they start hitting him with a crowbar. I remember that getting a pretty big reaction in the showing I was at. Yeah, that was. I actually think Hangover I might have seen, like I saw it on a Friday night, then I went back with my friends to see it again on Saturday.
I mean, there's obviously ones that were missing throughout this time. And like, I leave them in the comment section if you got them or tweet them to us. Maybe this is a bracket we can do. Funniest moment in movie history, 1 per movie. We've been doing the brackets, and I like to do one every summer that we can go through. Maybe this could be the one this year. If you have any ideas for that, hit me up with it. But
Philip Seymour Hoffman says that they've been here for billions of years.
So The Master, maybe not the funniest movie of all time, but we're going to play a game. Pick a point, where you just pick a point and drive off. And he just drives off, and that's the end of the scene. And he sees him again like 8 months later. The Master.
I don't know how far that'll go in the bracket, but it's great.
No, the one I was thinking about that I probably laughed the most at in the theater, because it was one of those things where it hit me the right way and I just couldn't stop laughing. And I think I've mentioned it a bunch of times on the show. It's like one of my favorite movie parts of any movie of all time. In Role Models, very underrated Role Models. Role Models is awesome.
Great movie.
When they're sitting in the Big Brother video session and they're watching Jane Lynch on the TV, and she starts dancing to the edge of the TV on the screen, and then she comes out dancing from behind the TV. It just absolutely destroyed me.
That might, like, if you could do sort of a like bracket of top side characters in a comedy film, like her performance in that movie. And it's perfect. Again, this is the Creed rule of making television and movies. She's in it just the right amount. Like, she couldn't be in it any more than she is, but the perfect amount in that movie.
She's like that in the Christopher Guest movies as well. She's in it just enough to be fantastic.
Well, that's the whole key to the Christopher Guest movies, that no one is in them all that much. It's a collection of side characters. And some of them you do get burnt out on, and it's usually the Christopher Guest character himself. As you know, he will shoot scenes by himself, like when he's hanging out at home, because he has an idea for something, then those end up going in the movie. But that's a collection of like a 30 character ensemble, and 29 of them are just, they're perfectly used. They're like in 3 scenes each, and that's all you ever need from them.
Yeah, I agree.
I wonder what the best Jane Lynch character is from the Christopher Guest movies. It's got to be being married to
Best
the old
in
dude.
Show.
Best in Show. I mean, her in A Mighty Wind.
No,
is
she's not.
great, too.
She's not married to the old guy in Best in Show.
Oh no, Jennifer Coolidge is married to the old guy in Best in
yes.
Show, and she's the dog trainer that they hired. All right.
Yeah, I think that's her best role.
Okay. I was gonna say the weirdest thing, Gary. What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen at the gym?
Ooh.
Or what's the weirdest thing
I'm
that
not
you see
sure.
that you know that people are doing wrong? Because I see, and listen, I'm no gym expert, but I do have this thing sometimes called common sense. People use the incline on the treadmill to like get it up like this, which is great. If you can walk on the at 15 incline at like 3.5 miles per hour for half an hour, like you will burn some serious calories. But I see people doing this, but they're also holding the top of the treadmill, thus taking away any sort of effort you actually have to exert.
That's what I do.
Are you fucking serious?
That's what the handles are for. It gives me my heart rate.
Do you hold it the whole time?
Well, where am I going to put my hands?
Tim.
Handles and sensors right there for me to hold on to. Aren't they like the handles on the stationary bike or the handles on the rowing machine? Or
The handles on
what
the
are they
rowing
for?
machine are you holding on to the actual like rowing part of the machine. There's
what
no-
are the handles for on the treadmill then? Are they not? They're just there for show?
Yeah, basically. Like you're
Oh.
holding on to something, therefore you're not actually doing the workout.
No, I've been doing the incline walking and I've been holding on while I do it.
Yeah, you're not doing anything.
Oh.
I mean, you're walking a little bit, but you're not actually getting any. The reason to have it on the incline is because it's hard, and you're making it not hard
Well,
when you
yeah.
hold on to something. You'd be way better off decreasing the incline or potentially walking slower and not holding on to anything. That's a much better workout.
Mechanical advantage.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. It is a mechanical advantage. You're letting the machine do the work for you instead of you doing the work.
Okay. Duly noted.
That never clicked in your mind? Like, hey, this makes no sense.
No, if I see handles on something, I assume the purpose of the handle onto them. Silly.
I did see someone use like, it's not the shoulder press, but like the one where it's like you're almost doing like flies sort of with your shoulders or whatever.
Oh yeah, the one that goes up like this?
Yeah, but I saw someone using that as like a neck like exercise machine once.
Like who was it? The guys
was
from
like,
the guys from Night at the Roxbury? They were doing some training?
Roxbury? Yeah, maybe. But I was like, that's probably a good way to suffer a spinal injury. That seems fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's different things that you can do with some of the different equipment. Like I do shoulder shrugs with the bicep machine. If you just turn it down all the way, because you can really get like a good angle for your like traps and upper back when you do it that way. But I just see people holding onto the top of the treadmill all the time, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. Like it just like you're really defeating the purpose of what you're attempting to be doing here. You should build like if you can get to that point, that's great. You're not going to get to that point by holding on. You need to lower the settings, build yourself up to that, and then do the really hard thing that it's meant that you're trying to do. Although I've never seen anyone filming themselves at the gym. Like I've seen people film themselves doing squats to consult like they're like making sure they're hitting the right like area. It's not for like social media posting. I've never seen
Oh, I have. I've seen people making TikToks.
I have never seen anyone make a TikTok at the gym ever.
Wow.
I've seen
Lucky
it.
you.
I go to a smaller gym, and I would say probably at least once a trip, someone's filming themselves. Now, you're right. I would say half of that is people filming themselves doing squats, and I would assume that's for form reasons, although who knows? I've seen squat videos online, so clearly people post those too. But yeah, it's pretty common, I would say.
Really? I haven't seen any of those, but I guess maybe I go at really weird times because I have a schedule that I can pick myself, and I make sure to go to the gym at the time when the fewest people are there. So I have the entire gym, not the entire gym, but I'm not like waiting around the entire time trying to get on this, trying to get on that, and I can do the circuit that I want to do when I end up going in. But I do know that there's a lot of virtual trainers that getting a video of yourself, like as a, not even for your own form check, but to send it to the trainer either as accountability or that they can coach you through where you're missing out on something like, hey, your form's off here. Here's where you need to go. And I would think that most people for squats, that would be what they're doing because you can't see behind you.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I could see
Can I
that.
give people a piece of social advice?
Of course.
Let people off the elevator before you try to get in.
That's with anything.
Please.
A subway's the same
Same with
thing.
a door. Same with an indoor. Always let out of a door into a door. Thank you. Always let people out of a door before you try to go in.
The subway's the weirdest one for that, Garion. I don't get it. Like the whole thing is like you stand to the side, you let everyone out, then everyone can get in. People like, have they never been on a subway? Do they not care? Do they not understand the social order of things?
I mean, it's more and more. I find I feel like nowadays a lot of people just lack a certain level of self-awareness, which is kind of the root of any social issue. The subway in particular, I guess it depends what time of day you're going, obviously, but you know, there is a certain subsection of people who I'm sure are kind of deluded enough to think if they don't push their way on immediately, like they're not going to get on. Or I know people don't like standing near the doors because then you have to do that thing where you get off first. And that's the other thing that makes me mad is when people are clearly getting off just to let people out. And then there are people who are at that station who then try to get on before the people who just got off the train. And it's like, no, they're being a good person. So you have to be a good person back to them.
Impossible to do.
I agree.
I have one question for Garion before we get out of here, since there's been a movie theme type show. Garion, in your opinion, who was the biggest babe in a movie ever?
Ooh.
Because
I
I will give you Elizabeth Hurley and Bedazzled, whatever that movie was with Brendan Fraser.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Mega babe.
I think there are a lot of like obviously there's a lot of incredible people
Babes.
in movies.
Great babes.
I would say a conversation I've had with my friends quite a bit is who's looked so good, like not that they don't always look good, but who had one movie where they look just so much better than they do in every other movie. And the two answers we always come back to are Cameron Diaz in The Mask, who I think would rank highly on any list like this, and Nicole Kidman in, I guess it's Batman Forever.
Oh, yeah.
She's so hot in that movie.
Great babe.
And again, obviously attractive woman, but I don't know what it is. Every other movie she's done, she just hasn't quite reached that level. But I can't, is she Vicky Vale in that? I can't remember. She's a therapist.
Yeah, she is. No, Vicky Vale's Catwoman, isn't it?
Yeah, it's I can't remember who she is, but gorgeous in that movie.
Jared, this piqued yours, so we finally hit a topic.
Don't forget
what?
Don't forget Gloria Stewart in Titanic.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say Kathy Bates in Misery as your answer.
Kathy Bates in Titanic.
Kathy Bates in the new Matlock.
Yeah, there you go.
Just having Kathy Bates.
Let Jared go.
Wait, is she, because I this is way off topic now, because I do want to hear Jared's input on this. I really, really do. But I was watching a commercial during football, and they mention in one of the newer Matlock commercials that she, like, in that show's reality, Matlock is a television show. So she's not actually like Matlock. She's do you know this, Tim? Like, have you watched
She
this
is,
show?
but she isn't. Do I watch this show? Yes. It's a great show. It's a fantastic show.
It's so meta that, like, she knows
Yes.
who the, like, actual Matlock is.
Yes.
Nicole
right.
Kidman played Dr. Chase Meridian in Batman Forever.
Chase Meridian. Oh,
Psychologist for Val Kilmer, aka the Batman, aka Bruce Wayne. Jared, biggest
Isn't
babe.
it-
For me, Dukes of Hazzard, Jessica Simpson.
Ooh.
Really?
Yeah.
I got to the Daisy Duke top. It's a whole thing named after her because she's so good looking.
It wasn't named after her. It was
Well,
named after the original Dukes of
not named
Hazzard.
after her.
Well,
Do you know that there was a television show called The Dukes of Hazzard that existed for like 10 years in the 70s? Please tell me you know that show existed.
Never seen a James Bond movie.
Oh my God.
Oh, because you know what? Is it Eva or Ava? Ava Green? Eva Green?
Oh, in Casino Royale. Yeah, that's a good shout.
Oh.
Yeah, this could be a bracket too. Biggest babes. Will that get us hired by Barstool, Garion?
It might. It might.
Or it's probably something they've already done, so I can probably just
Yeah,
Google that.
yeah,
find
it's
it.
out there somewhere.
I was just thinking off the top of my head. I had so much weird stuff written down, like random notes that don't make sense for topics. Like I just have eye patch written down. I don't know what that's pertaining to, but maybe we'll find out on the next edition of Cust Corner.
Yeah, maybe that's what we'll lead the live show with. That's good. That's good SEO right there.
That's good SEO. I mean, if there's one thing you need for a live show, Garion, June 7th in Toronto, 2025, it's good SEO.
If anyone shows up wearing an eye patch, I'll buy you a beer.
I mean, the spread show that we recorded hasn't come out as of yet, but Tim accused Jeff of wearing his t-shirt in the pool.
That's such
just
a
thought it was-
specific insult.
I thought it was just a funny line. I just thought it was a funny line.
And we
It
were
was all
honest,
meant in
have
good
you-
fun. It's
and-
all
and
meant in
You
good
ever
fun.
won a t-shirt in a pool?
Have I? I don't even want to wear a
No,
shirt
it
on this
says
show.
Tim.
Make
No,
these,
it's Tim.
these babies dance.
Oh, in the past I have. Yeah, not anymore. I don't. But I have in the
Awful move.
past.
Minus EV move. I
Agreed.
would
That's
say
why I
it's
don't do it.
really
That's why I
good.
haven't done it in a very long time. But yeah, I've done it before.
But Tim said that there's gentlemen of a certain size who would wear t-shirts in a pool. So I want to get a pool t-shirt for people to purchase at the live show that says gentlemen of a certain size.
Yeah.
Or just get
Well,
a
you
shirt
have
that
enough
says,
models.
yeah. I'm sure that there will be a lot of people who say, hey, this is the best fitting shirt I've ever had. It's like
We're
those
gonna
pins-
have
This
to
is just like-
reinforce the stage between.
Look
is
at the
Cam gonna
lovely
be there?
look at the lovely stitching on dope.
I'll take 10. All right, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience, the Cust Corner only feed. It was fun catching up with Garion and Tim and just revisiting some of the topics we've done in the past 8 years and 50 episodes of Cust Corner. There's more coming out very, very soon, so I recommend that everyone sub to Mayo Media Network, smash a like to this episode, and leave a rating and review. All right, I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!